Welcome back to AM Northwest on this Monday morning. You know, I'm happy that there's no ice out there. So
oh,
I'm
me too. I'm with you.
All right, connecting with our emotions for maximum success and well-being is one of the lines that goes, most of us were never taught, so here to help parents help their children deal with their feelings is the author of The One Thing Holding You Back. We welcome back to AM Northwest, Raphael, Cushnir. Nice to have you here.
Great to be here.
I've been looking forward to talking to you about this because it's my opinion that we as parents today are far more touchy-feely than our parents. You know, my dad and his dad would have never asked, how you feeling? And meant it.
Right.
But today, parents want to know how their kids are feeling, and they worry about it, but now how to help them. So 5 things, and we're talking about kids who are like, what, 4, 5, 6 years old?
Yeah, everything we're going to talk about today, you can scale up for the older kids, make it more sophisticated, right. Scale down for the littler kids. Let's
start with, you say you should never tell your child you shouldn't feel that.
Right, because feelings arise on their own. We don't control how we feel, right? We just get to choose whether we resist the feeling or try to stuff it down, or whether we accept it, right? And so with a kid, if he or she has a feeling that, you know, we don't like or we don't want, that's our problem.
An example of that feeling would be maybe a kid who feels anger. Is that what you're talking about? Or a kid who feels sad because their favorite TV show isn't on?
It could be any feeling that we think they shouldn't have. But that's our issue, right? Okay, and so it's much better just to say, you know, you've got that feeling inside. See if you can pay attention to it. Where do you feel it in your body? Can you make friends with it? Because the nicer you are to it, the nicer it's going to be to you.
Are you saying, so when a child is angry, you can go to that point already to say, where is the feeling inside?
Well, that's a good question, because different feelings, you know, obviously require different responses. And one of the things that parents often try to say to kids who are angry is calm down.
Right. Which is one thing you say never to say.
Right, because if you ask them to calm down, it's almost always a subtle message in there that you shouldn't be feeling what you're feeling. You should stuff that feeling. And the truth is that if you can tell a child to pay attention to what they're feeling, and even, you know, ask, what would that feeling say if it could speak? And then you can even say, oh, it's very upset in there, you know, and if this is a younger child, you can say, maybe it's like a crying baby in there. Could you rock that baby, you know, put it in a little crib, and maybe it'll calm down all by itself. And that way you're letting the child have the feeling, but you're not saying, stop it.
And what you're trying to communicate to the child is how to deal and cope with their feelings, rather than let the feelings control them all day long. That's the message, isn't it? Giving them skills to deal with them?
Absolutely, because most of what we don't want is kids acting out their feelings in unacceptable ways. We need to deal with that. We need to help them understand what's appropriate behavior. But first, they've got to have enough of the feeling to really understand what's going on and what is the feeling telling them.
I can hear them because we're in HD, thousands of dads and moms screaming right now, just tell the kid to get over it already. And you say you should never tell a kid to get over something.
Yeah, because feelings come and go on their own time. And whenever we try to make a feeling go away quicker, it always stays longer. So we can tell a young child, for instance, see if you can make a lot of space in there for that feeling to fly away as soon as it's ready. And that way, you're not saying, you know, just stay there forever or wallow in that feeling. You're actually inviting the feeling to leave when it's ready, but not a moment too soon.
You also say it's never say you're too sensitive.
Right, because every child is sensitive to her own nature.
And there's no perfect level of sensitivity, is there?
Right. Usually what we're saying when we tell a child you're too sensitive is, I don't like how you're feeling makes me feel.
Yeah.
Right? And then they're learning how to adjust their true feelings to please people outside of themselves, and then that's going to be, you know, thousands of dollars of therapy later on.
A lot of this, what you're suggesting, is really the parents dealing with their own reaction to their child's feelings, and then also teaching the children how they may behave when they feel a certain way. Am I getting that right? For example, I'm feeling very, very sad, and therefore I'm eating tons of ice cream. Well, maybe I don't need all the ice cream. That's something we can learn later in life.
Right. If you can pay attention to the feeling itself in your body, you're going to soothe those bad feelings.
And deal with them more cooperatively or productively.
Right.
All right, this one I love, because this is what Helen says to me all the time. That feeling doesn't make any sense.
Right. Well, feelings aren't supposed to make sense all the time. at least at first.
Right.
They're a different kind of feedback from our brain. It's not the same thing as the rational part of our brain that says this means that, right? And the most important thing you can teach a child is to let that feeling be and to listen to it. That's why it's a great thing to ask, if that feeling could talk, what would it say?
And again, these are tips for younger kids.
Yeah.
As they're older, you would just modify that message in those questions. We've got all your tips and information about your book on our website at KATU.com. Thanks for coming in today.
You're welcome.
You know what? I felt really good about it.